Artcadets, and welcome to this week's video. So today I'm going to do a stone painting of Olaf from the Frozen movie, and I'm going to paint him doing a snow angel. So if you're ready, let's go.
Now here is a sneak peek of Olaf, and this is what we're going to be working on today. And I'm also going to start by introducing to Artcadets on a Friday a question of the week, and the first question is, what is your favourite Disney movie of all time? So pop your answer in the comments box below and I might do a future video on that movie. I'm also going to put up things you might need. Now this is a list of things that I used for this video, but you don't have to use exactly the same, it just might be helpful if you want to try it at home. So step one is to paint a base coat of a pale blue paint on your stone. So I just mixed up some blue together with some white, and I didn't use any water, and that is quite important because we want a nice even covering on our stone, and we want it to be nice and thick and opaque, so we don't want any water that might dilute the paint. Now the stone I've chosen is quite a flat stone. It's not perfectly flat, but it's as flat and smooth as I could get. So once we've applied that layer of paint and it's good and thick, we allow it to dry. So step two is to draw a pencil outline of Olaf on your stone. You don't have to have this step, you can skip it if you just want to go straight in with a painting, but I found it quite useful just to make sure that I was going to fit the whole of Olaf in and he was going to be central on the stone. So he's a fairly simple, straightforward shape, and he's got a body that's in two sections, and I've just drawn them as sort of squashed circles. The one on the top obviously quite a bit smaller than the bottom one, and his little round squashed circle feet on either side of the bottom circle. His head I've done more as a balloon shape, and at the top of his head I've just done a sort of a semicircle, not quite the full width of the balloon shape, and a little sort of rectangle, curved rectangle shape for his nose, his eyes quite close together, and the majority of his face is that big open smile. So again, I just sort of mapped this out of where it's going to be because I didn't want to start off the painting straight away and then find out I've not left enough room for either his arms or his feet or anything like that. And so I thought that was quite a good idea. So before the painting step, and then once you've done that, you can get the paints out and get painting. So I really only used like a couple of blues with this and a white with sometimes a hint of black just to get a variety of different shades. And rather than paint him just white, which you can do, I thought it'd be quite fun to try and go for a more 3D effect, a bit like we did with the gingerbread man last week. So I've gone in with some darker blues with a little bit of black in it, so it's a kind of a dark blue grey to the left hand side of his body, and then I do a brighter whiter colour on the right hand side of his body. And these sort of effects help him to look a bit more 3D. I'll link the gingerbread man video up above if you want to go and check that out, or if you haven't seen it. But using these acrylic paints gave me a really nice effect. They're really nice and thick, and I was able to get quite a nice even gradient between the darker areas on the left and the brighter whiter shades on the right. They weren't particularly expensive paints either, so don't think that you can't do the same effects because you haven't got the paints I've got. As I say, they weren't expensive, and it's all about technique, and have a play around with it and maybe practice first if you're not too sure to start with. The paintbrushes I used on this stone painting weren't expensive either, so I just kind of went for a selection of a few. So a really fine one to do the fine details on his face, and a fairly small round one to do his body. So as you can see, it doesn't matter that we did a pencil outline to start with, because this gets covered up with the opaque acrylic paint that we're painting in now. other good thing about this sort of paint as well is if you do make a mistake, you can always paint over it. And I do swap between using the different brushes just to do different areas, but I try not to use a lot of water when I'm doing this because we don't want wishy-washy watery effects. We want those nice bright colours, and I have used water in the past, but I found this technique of not using any water to dilute the paints really gives a nice result. So the painting I'm doing around Olaf now isn't a black or anything like that. It is a mixture of either a really dark blue or adding a tiny bit of black just to make that a sort of a blue grey. And again, as I said in the gingerbread man video, it's all about the sort of the contrast between the dark areas around the outside and the light areas, and that helps give you your 3D effect. So once I finished his body, I just went around the outside, and as you saw in the list of things I used in the beginning of the video, I did use a reference photo, and that was just so that I could figure out what sort of shading to do and how to make it look more 3D. So to make him look like he's doing a real snow angel and to make it look really 3D, as I say, it's the contrast between the dark areas and the light areas that makes it look really realistic. But I'm still only using a few colour paints and just mixing different shades together to get a really nice effect. So now going on to his carrot nose, and it might be a good idea to let the paint dry on the other areas before you start off with this orange and with the black as well, because you don't want it to sort of all merge together or spread. But you can see when I add the black for his buttons that the shaded areas that I was doing for under his body and around his arms are actually just dark blue, they're not black at all. And when I added the dark brown for his twiggy arms, you can really see the sort of the shaded areas underneath. It really makes it pop and helps it look at 3D. Now you could add the eyebrows and the hair and the detail with his arms with a marker if you weren't confident with the paintbrush, and that would be equally as effective. All the details with the shading are all done with a paintbrush, and that's what makes it really pop. And again, don't forget, if you do make any mistakes, you can just paint over them. So I'm just adding some last darker areas of shading and some lines around his arms to make it look like his arms are moving when he's doing that snow angel. And I had a really good time with this one. It was great fun. It probably took me about an hour to do, so you do need a little bit of patience, but have some fun with it, try it at home and let me know how you got on. And just adding some last minute touches, a little bit of shadow under his carrot nose, and then he was done.
Well, That's all for today, Artcadets. I hope you've enjoyed stone painting Olaf with me. If you have, then don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to see me paint the hedgehog picture, I did that on the Art Hive, my other channel, so go and check that out, and I'll see you next week. Bye!